Where's Mr. Harry Hart? You're going to get up, Harry? Come on.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Thank you. Got a lot of pages, you don't know?
Yeah, well, I prepared a few notes. Oh, shit. I don't need those.
Take the press, clean it up.
Rankin Lyman tells me that we started playing. Hold it up.
Hey.
Two and
Can't hear your mic at all.
37 years.
You must have hit it off. You must have hit the off button.
Don't hit that. Up to your mouth. Well, that's the story of my life lately. Don't hit anything. Rankin tells me that we met 37 years ago. We played with and against each other. I've always liked having Rankin in the dugout because he had these off-the-wall jokes that he loved to tell, along with these great war stories about past baseball exploits of hitting a home run over the 400-foot sign, stealing bases or several, and you remember those. You understand these stories are long, long ago. And if you give him a chance, he would tell you about the time he had to hobble to the plate and he hit a one-hopper to me at third, and somehow I couldn't seem to make that play, and Rankin was safe, and our team ended up losing the game. It was our only loss of the season. We were 24-1. You know what it's like to lose one game. Oh, wait a minute. There are some 68 A's here tonight, isn't there? But baseball does have its ups and downs. We have good times and bad times, like life. Sometimes life, you have these high moments and you have these low moments. And there was a time in my life where I was going through a very dark time. The stock market crash of '89, I lost a great deal of money. The great love of my life, she decided to move to another town without me. And I was very, very ill, and the doctor said it didn't look like I was going to be around for that long. And, you know, in those times, you just go, gee, many crickets. And so I asked God, you know, why me? What have I done? And his answer was, you know, Hart, there's just something about you that pisses me off. And to emphasize that, the worst storm in Placerville's history came by and blew my roof off my house. And as I'm standing in this mess in my front yard, this fat man in a roof truck pulled up, got a ladder, crawled up on my house, and proceeded to repair my roof. And when I asked him, I said, what is that all about? And he simply said, it's what we do. And so tonight, with all the inductees, we talk about our great love for the game, our great love for our teammates, and how much the game has meant and how much you've contributed. But as I look around to all of the inductees and those that are members of this austere club, these are men that have not just the love for baseball, they have a love for life. They're willing to share with others. They're willing to come by and help their buddy when they're down, their neighbor when they needs help. And it's not that it's a big deal to them, it's what they do. And on that basis, I'm happy to give you Rankin Lyman.
Thank you, and like everybody else, thanks to all the appropriate people that ought to be thanked for getting me up here in the first place. And I was, like the pamphlet said, I was equal parts pleased and surprised to be admitted in this group in the first place. It's there's plenty of people here that don't think I belong, probably, and I'm feeling very lucky to be here.
Rankin, closer. Closer than Mike, closer.
Closer to me?
Oh, yeah, Mike,
Okay,
closer.
thank you. I agree with what Harry said. One time I was pitching and the sun was in my eye, and a catcher named Roy, I can't think of his last name to save my life, and he hit the crap out of the ball. It was one of my fastballs that wasn't, or a curveball that didn't, and it was going to take my head off. At the last possible instant, I somehow caught it, but it knocked me on my keister. And Roy, instead of running first base like he ordinarily would have, he came out to the pitcher's mound to see if I was okay, and I was okay. I actually caught the ball, so it ended up being a non-story. But I looked up at his face, and his face was absolutely white with fear. He didn't care about baseball anymore. All he was concerned about was whether he had hurt me or not. And you know, like Harry said, we care about each other, and I think all of us are even lucky to be here. A lot of us, like Harry and me, are even lucky to be alive in the first place, let alone being our age and still being able to play baseball, even if we're not very good anymore. But another story that happened that made me feel really good was used to be a player in the league called Leron Lee. Had a 10-year major league career, and of course he was way better than almost all of us. And he certainly owned me. Every time I pitched against him, he hit the crap out of the ball. But my late father-in-law showed up at a game one time and found out that he was an ex-major leaguer, and he was really impressed by that. And I asked Leron Lee after the game, and David said, "Would you mind just going over and saying hello to my father-in-law? He'd really get a kick out of it." Leron Lee barely knew me. He might not have even known my name. He went over there and talked to my late father-in-law for 20 minutes. That made that, and he was 89 years old, my father-in-law was. That made him so happy, and he talked about that for 2 months. I mean, that was a really nice thing for Leron Lee to do, and he didn't have to do that. And it just shows that, you know, like I say, we care about each other. I think it's really important to remember that. Another guy, first name is David, again, I can't think of his last name, very good pitcher, very good player in this league. Played for the Braves, and he slid late and slid high in the home plate one time when I was catching, and he broke his leg on my leg, and he didn't hit me hard enough to even move my foot. In fact, I couldn't figure out what was wrong, why he was screaming. Of course, he was out because he never got to home plate, but I mean, it was 100% his fault, but I still felt really bad about it because you hate to see your fellow players get hurt. And last year when they announced here at this meeting that I had been admitted to the Hall of Fame, he was the first guy to come up and congratulate me. And I thought, you know, what a class act. Here's a guy whose leg I broke, and he was the first guy that was a gentleman enough to congratulate me on making this. And one more story, and I'll let you go. One time we had what happened, I grew up on a farm with two houses in front of the farm, and there was a barn in between. Well, back in the 30s, the cars got so noisy that they scared the livestock, so they moved the barn back away from the road, left a big vacant field. And this was 15 years before I was born. They turned it into a baseball diamond. So all the kids in the neighborhood played baseball there until we got too old to play there. And I got too old one time and hit a window in our basement of our house and broke a window. I told my dad, and he said, "Yeah, well, next time I go to the hardware store, I guess I got to get a new window." Never chewed me out, never made me pay for it, never nothing. 35 years later, I asked him what happened. He says, "Well," my dad said his first cousin had a son the exact same age I was. They got polio, couldn't walk rest of his life, and what that man would have given to have his son be able to break a window playing baseball. So my dad looked at the grand scheme of things and felt, you know, how lucky I am to have a son that's able to break a window. You know, because, you know, in the grand scheme of things, a $2 window back in the 1950s, that beats the heck out of having a kid that can't walk, you know. So it gives you a slightly different perspective on life. And I think my dad, for a high school dropout, he was the second smartest man I ever met. My son's the smartest, but my dad was pretty close second. And again, thanks everybody for your attention. I appreciate it. And I certainly don't have the skill set I used to have. I clock my fastball with a calendar nowadays instead of a radar gun. And I certainly don't run as fast as I did in 1965 when I played college baseball the last time. But it's still fun for me, and it's still fun with the camaraderie, the nice people I hang around with, and people who remember my name. And sometimes I can't remember theirs, but what the heck, you know. I'm the only Rankin Lyman anybody knows. I'm the only Rankin anybody knows. Thank you very much, folks.
Stay over here. I gotta get you your certificate. Stay right there.